Welcome everyone, and welcome back to Forward Operating Base Lake Fork. I am Greg Hill. I'm your host for your fishing show today. I'm out here on beautiful Lake Fork as usual, shooting it from my Skeeter, which I'm so happy that I got back. I missed last week's report because my GoPro camera was in my boat, and my boat was getting fiberglass repair done to it. It had a tiny little hiccup and a tiny little impact on an underwater tree when I was just going on plane. You're fishing in a place that you go to all the time, and I'm very, very careful here on Lake Fork because of all the stuff that are here, and everyone should be if you come out here. But I was just going on plane, and when the boat digged down to get on plane, we're in the hole, and boom, I hit something. So I had to get some work done. So I took my boat in. It wasn't bad at all. It just took a little while to get it done because of the insurance and all that type of stuff. But look, we're up and running now, and I'm doing great. And on top of that, I want to say hello. I want to say thank you to someone. I won't mention you by name, but when you see this video, you know exactly who you are, because this person volunteered, found out about my boat that I had issues with, and then they said, "Hey, Greg, you can use my boat to take people fishing for your trips," because I would have had to cancel a number of people that had scheduled trips, and it's hard to find a guide. The good news about this is this person fishes with me a lot, and pretty much had the same exact lure setup I've been using during the spawn, because he's been fishing with me, and he's kind of adapted to my spawn techniques, and we got all the same lure, so I pretty much didn't have to even change anything on any of the rods and reels I was using, because my rods and reels were in the boat too. So, man, I couldn't have done it without you, and I really appreciate it. So thank you very much, and you know who you are. You know who you are. So, and you're a great person. So let's get back to the fishing report. Look, it's a bright bluebell day, and just a couple of days ago I was fishing in the storms and the wind and everything was going on that day. We got chased around the lake by thunderstorms. We only got rained on a little bit, but I'll get into the fishing for the last 2 weeks. I mean, it's been mostly bed fishing. Coming in those 2 weeks, there's a lot of pre-spawn fish and some bed fishing, newly on bed pairs I've been seeing. But just starting 3 days ago was the first day I really hadn't had a chance to catch any bed fish because the weather was terrible. We had huge winds, and I couldn't really find, even when I found some places were kind of really calm. Then we got the rain, it just messed it up, and the visibility wasn't good. So we had to pretty much focus on pre-spawn fish, and we did that. So I know now you can still, the pre-spawn is still going on, the shad spawn is still going on. You can catch baits on top water and spinner baits and jerk baits and top waters and bladed jigs and swimming jigs. And I'm gonna go through it, but look, there's so many different lures that you can be throwing to catch baits on right now that I can't show all of them, but I'll show the ones. My biggest fish this last week with a client was a 615, and that came on a chatterbait. So bladed jig. So it's just anything that's looking like a big shad. And you want to look for, you see those gizzard shad. The gizzard shad are the bigger shad, and it's I tend to think the bigger fish are going to follow them around more than basically the thread fins. You can tie into a bunch of fish with the thread fins, I think. You'll see the smaller schooled bass there, and they'll do that. So I'm just going to get right into a couple of the lures that I'm using and kind of talk about it a little bit. But look, everyone watched the Bassmasters Elite here, so it wasn't any big secret. You can go out and throw some top water, some basically top water, knocking baits, and do the walk the dog. That's pretty much a standard bait around here in this shad spawn, the maid fishing. But look, some of the things you can think about. If you're here fishing this term, there's a couple of things to think about. And look, you throw the bigger one, you're going to sort out the fish, you're going to get some bigger fish, but you're going to weed out the smaller ones. So it's a great big fish bait. You throw the smaller ones, and look, you've got the bone colors, you've got the shad colors, you can mix it up a little bit. You're going to catch more fish on the smaller one, but you could catch a big one, but you'll catch some of the smaller ones, and you could be catching some others with it. So jerk baits, go back to plugs. So look, poppers, popping baits, again, a little rattle in it, a little popper, you can just different colors, anything that's in the shad colors that you're going to be using. Jerk baits, I throw anything from the really small ones, like almost 3 inches, to some of the larger Rapalas, so it's just you kind of mix it up and look at what you're doing and what you're throwing, and what's the water depth there. A lot of the fish we were catching on the top water, it was like 3 feet deep, 2.5 feet deep. we had one place that, look, they were knocking the plug out of the water. I mean, it was knocking out of the water. The fish was coming out of the water. The fish was coming out of the water. The plug's coming out of the water, hitting it 4 times, doing their best with it. And then, kind of deciding on, if we're going to hit it again. Matter of fact, I tried to take some video after that, but it didn't do it a second time. It was kind of funny because it knocked it. We never caught that fish. And then all of a sudden, it kind of just turned off. But we did catch another one there. It was a really good fish, just over 6 pounds there. So, the bottom line is, and that was in 2 o'clock in the afternoon in 2-foot waves on a main lake point. And that gets to something, I want to say. So my client was like, Greg, if you'd have told me that we were going to catch fish on this main lake point, and this, I mean, he fished a lot. He knew understand that these main lake windy points are great. And we were fishing so the wind's blowing up on the point, and then getting close and throwing it across the point and throwing out, kind of changing up a little bit. But, if he said, if you tell me we were throwing top water in these 2-foot waves out here, I thought you were crazy. But we did, and we caught some good fish doing that way. We basically threw jerk baits again in chatterbaits. So where like I said, the big one came on the chatterbait. But I want to talk about some other baits that you can look at, and I'll show you the swim jig. So look, swim jigs, just big classic swim jigs, right? This is white and chartreuse. This swim jig, if you look at it, look close, you can see I've caught so many fish on that lure that there's almost no, all the paint has been eaten off of the top of that thing. So it's almost like a gray head on that thing now. And of course, that was one with a skirt, and this one is a skirtless one. But anything that's going to look like that shad coming through the water. Now you can also go weightless with, just like a swim kicker tail, Senko almost. You can throw the flashy tails with them. And then, then of course you got the chatterbaits, that you're losing. So I have different kicker tails on there. Remember, when you're looking at these kicker tails, think about taking trimming some of the tail off. If you've got your bait, if you got your bladed jig on a vibrating to a certain beat, make sure that your tail is kind of sequence with that. You don't want something that's kind of vibrating like this, making this vibration, and then a slow moving tail. It's not going to look right to the fish, so it's going to look wrong. So you want to get something that's pretty in sequence. So think about that. So, but those are kind of the top baits. I actually got one on a whopper flopper, and but I won't show that. You guys know what a whopper flopper looks like. I call it a whopper flopper. Big joke between my son and I. But look, any of the top water baits on some of these main lake points. But you almost have to commit to it, because you got to get in there and just work it. There's some big fish hanging out on these points right now. They're pre-spawners, and they're pre-spawn fish. And because we looked at their tails, there's no blood on the tails yet, so they're still heading on their way in. And top that with what I'd seen some fish just coming on bed, some pairs up, just coming on bed pairs. There's still fish moving up to spawn, so just depends. You got to move around the lake and kind of see where that could be. So look, the tournament's coming up this weekend. So if you guys are out here fishing the tournament, and look, obviously just like everywhere else, you're looking for unders, you're looking for the overs. One of the things you really need to make sure if you're trying to fish for those unders, there are plenty of fish still on bed in places. You can go buck male looking and see if you can find a big buck. Now remember, when you're looking at them though, a lot of times they have to look pretty small to be under 16 inches, so think about that a little bit. And then, the downsizing your top water baits, going with the wacky rigs, the smaller wacky rigs, like wacky rig and a tiny finesse worm. This is like a reddish, color flake with a green fleck that I like to use on my drop shot rig if I'm going for some smaller fish. Generally I'm out there fishing for the unders. I'm always kind of fishing for the overs, and that's just the way it is. But anyway, so think about that. See those kind of baits. Downsize your baits to kind of look into those fish. They're the smaller fish. If you're looking for the bigger fish, look, you can't go wrong, I don't think, still with going in and trying to do some bed fishing, maybe do some grass fishing. The grass is growing right now, and even these fish they're post-spawn females or spawning females are still going to be in these grassy areas. There's a lot of new grass growing down the lake in different places, so kind of try to see if you can find some of that grass and try to work through that and see if you can find some of the big fish. Out deeper, like, you can still throw some jigs out on the deeper humps, but I'm having more luck right now with the topwater baits kind of filtering out some big fish. But honestly, they haven't been overs. They've been really good fish, 7 pound, 6 pound, 8 pound fish, but they're not an over. They're not over 24 inches. So that wouldn't really do you that good for the tournament. You've got to focus on getting that bigger fish. So I tend to think still that you could probably find some more overs near this grass. They're still spawning up in there, and you can still find some fish that way and kind of target them that way. There's going to be a lot of people beating the bank, so just think about that. So I've kind of talked about everything that we were doing for the last week. You know, any kind of funny stories or, you know, kind of funny, but I guess one of the good ones is we went out and we were fishing from big fish, and my client was just like, there's no way we're catching these big fish. And sure enough, man, boom, you know, one big one, then another one's knocking the bait out of the water, so it's a lot of fun. Later on, we caught a lot of smaller ones on some jerk baits, but we had to move around. We had to move around from place to place to place that day to try to find it. You know, it was pretty hard to fish out there in that. It's really hard to fish out there in that type of stuff. So, anyway, look, that's going to keep it short for today. I'm going to keep it going because I got to get the boat taken up, and like I said, I just got her back in the water and getting her back set up and getting ready for this next week. But look, good luck to you guys out there in the tournament. You know, it's going to be great fishing. Hope you enjoy catching big fish. If not, Lake Fork's just a place to catch a big fish and enjoy yourself. But I'm Greg Hill. This is Forward Operating Base Lake Fork. And look, you know, leave no bass behind. So, you know, leave no fish behind for us here. But I'd like to meet you out the lake sometime. Give me a call. I just got a fish swirled right there on me. But just, you know, give me a call. Send me a message on Instagram, Facebook, and just let me know if you're going to come out here to the lake. I do have dates in May still. They're late in May, and I'll post that. But I've got only like 4 days left. But June and July dates, you know, still got a good number of dates in there. We're going to get to that summer fishing. We're going to start that deep fishing at some point. So let's start scheduling some of those dates. But look forward to you guys fishing with you guys, and give me a call. You guys have a great day. Bye. Back up with either the chatterbait or a jerkbait, you know.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. We ain't putting a fluke on.
There's your lure moving. You see how it's past them already?
Yep.
Real slow, remember, an inch at a time, not 6 inches. I think let me tack your line up. You're already through.